Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, where today we have returning guest, well, for the triple edition, George Wilson. So thank you for coming on the pod today, George.
More than welcome, Sarah. Absolute pleasure as always.
Yeah, it's been really good to do, more than one episode with you because people start to relate to people that come on multiple times. And it's nice to sort of share that journey with you as well with the listeners.
Yeah, of course. It's nice to build a relationship with the listeners.
Yeah, for sure. So you've literally just completed your last show of your competitive season. Tell me all about it.
Last show was finished this weekend, just gone Sunday. We did the PCA London. Result-wise, the plan for this season was to at least get a placement. That was what me and Joe was aiming for. We didn't get it this time around, but coming into that second show, I think the look I brought to the stage was enough for me to be happy with the work I did during prep and the package I brought. It was definitely a new challenge for me, this prep. Coming into the classic criteria for the first time, it was a very new experience on stage, actually having to do a routine. And I was a little bit nervous coming into the first show because I've not posed and done a 60-second routine in front of people before. It's eye walks and shit like that. It's not really the same.
Yeah.
So doing that, I didn't know whether I was going to enjoy it because I've never been someone to be like in the limelight or center of attention. Is I always like to sit in the background, but it lit a fire for posing that first show that I didn't think I would ever have. So the coming into that second show, the minute I got my 60 seconds on stage, I had control. I felt in my element, and it sparked something in me that I didn't think I'd ever see. So literally, the day after show, I was in the kitchen on the floor getting my next routine ready for 2 years' time. Like this is my future. And I tried to speak to Leon about it because I was like, I've never felt so excited by posing. It was always something that I was like, I've got to do it because it's part of bodybuilding, and now I've got this passion to try and make it something beautiful and something elegant and bring some art to it. So I am very, very grateful that coming out of this, I haven't come out of rapid fat loss and really, really digging out hard going, I don't want to do this anymore. It's killed me. It wasn't worth it. I've come out of it going, yeah, I'm ready to go again. I want to do it. I want to get bigger. I want to go make loads of improvements and come back and show them what's up. So it's lit something very, very good for me. The show itself at NFM was a little bit of a bummer for me. We played a gamble on condition, thinking, fitness federation, it's not a bodybuilding federation. Look at criteria, no hamstring lines. We don't want to see glute striations. Okay, let's nail the look. We did. And I got beaten by people on that day that were more shredded than me and had hamstring lines and glute lines. And it was like, we backed off into that show for a reason. Whereas if we carried on pushing, I probably would have been on the same level playing field and placed better. But you live and you learn. We know this for next time. We know to play to my strengths, and that is not to bother with criteria. Just bodybuilding, get as lean as you can, and try and hold as look as you can, and not try and play the game.
It's never easy, is it? When you try and I actually spoke to Steph about this on the last pod when looking for judging. It's never easy when you look at different federations until you compete with them and get the feedback.
Yes, 100%. And the same thing I said, despite me matching the criteria a little bit better, if you're a judge looking on stage and you've got three physiques that are really comparable, all very similar, all good condition, you're going to be drawn. Like, it's a judge's job to pick the best physique on stage. I know it's a subjective sport and they have to try and follow the criteria lines, but I'm here as the odd one out, and they've got another guy who's next to me that's even softer, and another one who whatever. But the three that won, first, second, and third, they were all within touching distance of each other. So as a judge's job, I can't moan at them for looking at that and going first, second, third. You guys kind of stick out. You're the odd ones out.
Yeah,
it's how it goes. We have to take that.
Yeah, it's what you're drawn to as a judge. Like you place condition higher generally. I mean, stage presence is massive. So that's something that you said you like the second time you went on, you really homed in on that. And that's massive, like, because you draw the eye. But then, like you said before we jumped on, if the guys have got more mass than you, then that's, a different ball game, isn't it? And that's something that can fire your off season.
100%. So yeah, coming into that second show, my feedback from PCA, they are so quick with feedback. It was fantastic. NFM messaged me like 2-3 days later saying, when you get stage shots, can you email them to us and we'll give you feedback? And I was just a bit like, look, I know my feedback for this. I just need to be leaner for the next show. I'm not worried there. But PCA, I wanted to know what they wanted me to improve on. And to hear that my posing was, they use the word, is it impeccable? It's like their top. Whenever they say impeccable, it's like, that's their top tier, right? If they say you got impeccable condition, you're diced to the bone.
Yeah.
So I got, posing routine, stage presence was all impeccable. Condition was extremely good. And then I got beat by three people that were bigger than me.
Yeah.
All the things that I could have got wrong that could have dropped me down a place, I nailed. So the one thing that I got beaten on is not something I can improve in a week between shows. It's not something that you can do in a peak week. It's right, you're just not big enough to compete with the tall class yet. They're 6'4", their structure's huge. You've got to go make improvements. So let's go and get that job done.
Yeah, and it's definitely even that what you've just said as a competitor, that is what makes a successful competitor, because if you can see that the top placements were, you know, it's an obvious difference between something like mass for your category, and then I find for me it fuels an off season and I feel really positive about it. Like you said, you've done everything within your control to be the best you can be for that day, and then you take the feedback and then it fuels the off season, rather than, oh, I should have got better than them, da, 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 da. You know, all those thoughts that go through your mind. It really does spin you into that dark hole, which is something we'll probably talk about today post show.
Yeah, completely. No, I think I tried to be very cautious in how I analysed the day, because I didn't want to, coming off the back of the first show, I was like, you don't know what you look like on stage. You haven't seen yourself because you just got out there and done the job, and everyone's there saying you look great, and you know you didn't place, but you got people telling you how good you looked, and it's all very confusing. And it throws your head off a little bit when you're trying to actually analyse how you feel, because there's a lot of external inputs from other people, the day, the environment. So it took me like a good 3-4 days to really settle into my reflection of the day. Whereas PCA was a little bit different. I kind of saw, people were showing me stage shots straight away. I could see I looked good. I was already happy from the minute I come off stage, because once I knew that I'd seen that picture, I was like, right, I don't care. I'm done. I'm good. I'm happy. And it made the transition out of that show very, very different. Very, very different. I had loads of motivation coming out of NFM UK to push into PCA. And it was like, yeah, let's dig. Let's get it. Loads of motivation. And then the post-show blues off of PCA come in real quick. Like, I was expecting a week, 2 weeks, maybe drop off. No, literally the next day I woke up and was so flat, like mentally. The adrenaline drop off had gone, of course, so I knew that was coming. I was expecting that, but
yeah,
the actual mental state in that first day, it was great having some freedom, and everyone was like, "Oh, you must really enjoy, like, eating some food with Zoe," and that. I was like, "I'm really not. I'm really not. I just want to try and get some normality back. I want to be back in normal George mode, because everything's been so exciting and all over the place. I just want normal."
Yeah, sure.
It hit very quickly, real quick. Zoe was like, "Oh, you give yourself a week, you'll probably start to slow down a bit and feel a bit meh." The next day, I was, nah, not good.
Yeah, it's a really weird spot, isn't it? I find that if I can have a positive mentality on my show day experience, the next day you still get this massive dump. And it's like, also as well, you sometimes think, you've had more food, you've had time with your friends and family, all of those things, but you're still like, oh, I feel like shit.
Yeah. There's it's those the adaptations and stuff that we're trying to correct now. They're not going to take 5 minutes to be corrected. There's a lot psychologically, there's a lot physiologically that we've got to deal with. That I don't know. I guess my expectation, again, even as a coach who knows all of this and talks to clients daily, I still come out of that the next day thinking, oh right, yeah, that's good. No, you're not. Chill.
Just like, it's like your body's really heavy, and then your mind, you're just processing, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
And
But
it's hard, especially when you're a first timer, because we have a lot of first timers listening to the pod. You don't expect it, and it's such a shell shock, and that's when it can last a couple of weeks.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It's not something I would like to sit in for very long. And very fortunately, the next day when I woke up and had a plan through, it was gone, more or less, which was quite nice for me. But again, experience, I knew that the moment I had routine back, it was going to go. So I wasn't too worried. But like I said, for first timers, the people that haven't experienced this before and it's very novel for them, it can be quite scary, because it's almost like a forced sadness that you can't explain, there lingering for no reason. You've just done something really remarkable despite the result. You've done something that 99% of the population can't do. So you should be held in your head really high. Yeah. But you just can't. And it's very hard to get out of that. And if it's your first time in it, you don't know what's going to get you out of it.
Yeah, so, for sure. And you mentioned as well, friends and family and people around you saying, oh, you look really good and what have you. I found in the past that's actually harder if you've got people saying that and you haven't competed before, and then you're like, oh, well, I should have placed then. And it actually adds to the confusion sometimes. So now I'm at a point where, when people are saying, oh, you look really good, you should have won, and all of these things, I try and take it with a pinch of salt until I, like you say, get my photos back. I can analyze my performance, speak with coach and things like that, because unfortunately, obviously they're going to be biased and they don't really know what the judges are looking for. And it's, you know, because they care, they love you and everything else,
Yeah.
but you can't take it for what it is until you see your, you know, photos, etc.
Exactly. I think the only people that are really important that matters about their opinion is the people sat on the panel. And not even your goddamn coach at that point, right? His job has been to get you in condition, but he's still, or she, sorry, he or she, they're going to have their own personal bias because you're their client, right? And as much as they look at it, like Joe's fantastic at being very honest, and if you're not where you need to be, he'll tell you straight up. There won't be no cotton wool or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I know when he says we're on the money, I do believe him, but I still have in the back of my head, remember, you are his client. There is going to be some bias. Let's see what the judges' feedback say, because they are completely non-biased. They don't give a shit who you are, who you ain't. That's going to be honest, and that's going to be a true reflection. So that's what you really need to go off of, and just try his best to ignore everything else outside of that.
Yeah, it is hard, isn't it? Yeah. Because I remember like the first time I competed, my mum was like, wow, you looked amazing and all of that. And then it almost led to this sort of false hope that I should have done better or what have you. And when I look back, it was, well, my first couple of seasons, I didn't have any muscle mass, etc. So I wouldn't have placed. But if I'd believed in that too much and zoned in on that too much, I think it probably would have added to that sort of dark place that you find yourself in post-show potentially.
Yeah, definitely.
It's hard. So at the moment, what are your plans? Are you up to maintenance?
So we've taken a slightly different approach to what I'm used to here. Now, typically, same as what you'd understand, Sarah, as well, is coming off the back of prep, we just had X amount of weeks of really pushing, digging hard, high stress, loads of fatigue to wash off. Of course, being an enhanced user, there's some considerations there for health that we need to get back in check, potentially, maybe. So normally, the done deal is come off the back, your season's done, let's have a nice recovery window, get yourself to maintenance and kind of correct as much of these negative adaptations as possible. However, for me, we are going into a old school traditional bodybuilder rebound, which I'm very excited for. And I need to caveat for listeners, because this is not the healthiest approach to a post-show situation, and you're very seldom to be in a position to do this. Yeah. I'm very lucky that I only spent in the back end of prep probably like 4 to 6 weeks at peak drug accumulation. Mm-hmm. So I know from previous data in the off season, I was at that dose higher for a little bit longer, and my blood work was good. Now, that obviously there's different stress involved with prep to off-season stuff, but I've checked blood work, we're all good. So I've got the green flag to push on from here with knowing that it's not going to be detrimental to my health. So for listeners, it's not the done thing coming out the back of show, and you probably shouldn't be trying to rebound and gain as much muscle as possible. You should be focusing on your health. But if you're in that unicorn situation, which we luckily are here, there's more to give, there's more to take here. So I'm going to really, really enjoy diving into this. I think another thing that I've been looking at with some of my clients as well is understanding their mental state post-show. And it is hard to do it with someone who you're working with for the first time. But if you've got someone who's competed before, you kind of know how their post-show response is. Yeah. Maybe the recovery phase isn't the best idea, because maybe this individual is just going to eat anyway and they can't control that. And that's that, this is a natural like a hedonic instinct that's inside you telling you to eat. And it's hard to ignore that. It really is. Again, first timers, people like that, they're going to not experience this yet, this internal drive to eat food for no reason whatsoever, just stuffing thing in your face and having a full belly. If they're going to do that anyway, then the recovery phase isn't going to be optimal for them, because they're just going to overconsume, because they're not training adequately to suffice the food they're eating. They're going to gain a lot of body fat. So there's like a double-edged sword here. It's like, do you push your health the wrong way by gaining body fat way too fast and then have to pull it off? And it's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your physical health. Or maybe is there a scenario here where the individual's in a healthy enough state to, okay, let's give them something to work towards here. Maybe this will help them keep on track. They're going to eat anyway, so let's make it more food, good calorie abundance, good food going in, give them something to train for, give them some motivation, and this should be the better of the scenario here. But again, you've got to look like on an individual needs analysis there. So it's not just about, like, for me, it's I need to make progress. I'm getting in the rebound because I need to get as big as possible. I need to maximize this environment while I'm here. Yeah. But it could be, I don't want this client to develop a bad relationship with food and start binge eating, or I don't want them to go down that path. So maybe we have a different approach here where we give them a push that might not be the best in terms of stress and fatigue for where they're at, but the end result is much better than the alternative.
Yeah, for sure. So are you back on plan now, tracking your food and...
Yeah, literally the day after show, I had a relaxed day with Zoe, which consisted of 3 big meals and some snacks. And I literally just wanted to cook for Zoe. That's all I wanted to do. So I cooked breakfast, I cooked lunch, I cooked dinner. We sat down, had 3 date meals across the day,
Yeah.
snacks in between. And then afterwards, I sat there 2 kilos heavier than my stage weight the next day and went, I just want to get back onto it now.
Yeah.
Joe sent me the macros through. This was a funny one, actually. So Joe sent me macros with the explanation of, we'll give you some freedom so you can chop and swap and play around with your food, yada, yada. The first thing I did was look back to my old, like, off-season kind of food sources and went, that. I'm going to make that work because that's what I know and I enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. Did it involve pineapple and rice?
A lot of it, yeah.
Is
Beetroot
there,
through the ones.
I mean, I personally quite like that. I like to have, you know, at least the night of the show. The next day I like to just have that, like you say, just to cook something and not measure it out and or go for a meal or whatever that may be. And that might be a couple of days, but I definitely think there's a lot of positives to going back on a plan because your calories are going to be higher anyway. And it just gets you back into that rhythm of tracking your food, being accountable. And like you say, going back and having a look at the foods that you're enjoying in off season, you can bring that back in because like you, I enjoy the foods I eat when I'm tracking. It's not like, you know, I don't like them, but I know that, you know, a lot of people will compete and then their coaches might say, well, do what you want for a week. And it's treacherous.
Yeah.
It's just great because, like you say, your hunger is off the chart. Like you can literally eat and eat and eat. And like you say, you could have snacks in between, you can have big meals, but you're never fully satiated. And something that Tom actually has sort of put out there for me after my last show, he said about potentially implementing GLP. Just,
GLP-1 agonist.
yeah, just to try and sort of subside because he said my hunger is going to be absolutely mental because he knows my capacity to eat as well.
They are really good. So they've just been approved for human use for like obesity treatment, I believe, in the
Yeah.
UK and US.
Right. Yeah.
They're really good at what they do. I think the way that our healthcare system is marketed them is very wrong because it's like a vice. It's,
Yeah.
hey, let's suppress your appetite for good and you won't eat. But what happens when you take that out of the mix? You know, I think for an acute short term setting, they are fantastic at what they do. So post show, like you said, for you, when your ghrelin response is flying through the roof, and the more you eat, the more it's going up. So the more you want to eat, even though you're not hungry, that could be a very good tool then because it's situational use. It's for a short window of time, and then when you're back to your baseline, you're back to having normal fluctuating hormones or whatever process you're going through. You can remove it, and it's fine. But like the way they market it, I think is a little bit not. It's not a cure for a problem. It's just the way they're marketing is a little bit wrong. But again, fantastic for a post show. I think bodybuilders can really benefit from it massively.
Yeah, when I understood more about it, Matt and I had a couple of conversations about it, like just using it for say 4 to 6 weeks post show as my calories go up. And then when they're at a point where, you know, it's going to hit the satiation a bit more and I'm in the groove, you know, the shows are done and I'm in a good spot, we can then bring it out. Because also, like Tom said, you know, the stimulant use for me is on the highest dose at the moment. My cleanse up to 120. I'm on your Himbine as well. Yeah. So if you then remove those on top of, you know, having your show out the way and you're going into off season, you're just all levels of hungry.
Yep, you've got so all the stimulants are bringing down some kind of appetite suppression to some extent. If you remove all of them and you start to back off and taper some of them off, which you need to, again, you're removing things that have been keeping your appetite at bay all through prep. You can start to see that response come quickly. I made the mistake, so I said, post show, like obviously nicotine, vaping, smoking THC, everything that I have done during prep to mitigate my hunger. Now that I'm at the back of prep, my first goal here is how can I start to remove these things now because I don't need them. The needs analysis is gone. And I made the mistake of going, right, I'm going to get rid of all the little disposable vapes that taste really nice and pretty. And I'm just going to go back to the big chunky thing that I don't really like because I'm going to use it less. And straight away, the next day, I think I used it twice. And my hunger was insane. So just remembering those things that you've had as vices to help with appetite, remove them one at a time, slowly over time. Don't just take everything all out at once because it's going to be hell.
Yeah, for sure. Because Tom was saying we'll probably keep like 40 Ghelin, take the Yohimbine out, just so we don't completely go cold turkey after the shows, and then just slowly titrate it out. Like over my prep, we've titrated caffeine up, And actually that sparked quite a lot of interest through people on Instagram and different conversations I've had, because I don't think a lot of people use caffeine over prep to slowly bring it up. They start prep and they're already on 4-6 coffees a day in a monster, and then tail end of prep they're hanging out there. You hit this as well. Yeah, so I'd never titrated it up, and I must admit I've never really, caffeine for me, like coffee, I just like the taste, so I'd have like one a day. And Tom was like, this is bloody brilliant, you're starting prep and only having one coffee a day. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, we can titrate it up and really utilize it. And then when he added a second monster, I was like, bloody hell, that's the drastic difference of my energy levels adding a second monster, because my coffee was like, it's 2 a day and 2 monsters now just at this back end of prep. It's been really useful. So I've learned a lot from that. But like yourself, I guess a lot of people would just be straight on the coffee straight away.
I've never really, I used to, when I was younger, pre-workouts, monsters, everything was like right through the roof when you start training, because you think it's what you should be doing because you're an idiot. But I really struggle going above like 400 mgs a day now. So instead of starting prep at a lower amount of caffeine, it's just always been sort of consistent. I'd have like a monster in the morning, 150 mgs, and then I'd have like a pre-workout. And eventually I kind of chopped it to pump instead of pre. So my caffeine was inconsistently somewhere around 400 to 300 most days. So coming into prep, I couldn't even afford to titrate higher than that, just because once the stimulants were in, the one thing that I hated, and the worst thing about being in a prep for me is that environment of hyperstimulation, constantly feeling scatty and nitty. You feel like you've been on a sesh. It's horrible.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't like feeling like that all day, which is why I started smoking weed all day, because it keeps that parasympathetic nervous system out of the way. So for me, once Ghelin went in, once your Himbine was in, DMP, there was no movement for caffeine, because I said to Joe, if he tried putting it up, I don't know what I'd do. I just can't. I'd explode. I just can't deal with the nah.
Yeah, it's too much. Like you say as well, you've said on both the pods, your main focus is being a good coach.
Yes.
And like we said on the last one, you're sitting down to do something and you can't steady yourself.
No.
And then it's not productive to your main aim in life to be a good coach. And then it's like, that risk reward, and you've got to work out what works for you. But yeah, definitely going up on the stims for me was like,
you was in the environment to do that. You started off really low, and it was a perfect tool during prep to bring it in along the way. I wish I was in a position to do that. I wish I had. It would have been a lot easier for me.
Yeah. You saying about pre-workouts, I remember like when I first started training, we'd have like concoctions. So we'd have like half a scoop of this, half a scoop of this, and then you get like halfway through the session, you think, oh my God, like when you start getting that almost come down.
Yeah,
God,
you don't realize you're looking at the 3 different panels afterwards, and you're going, right, this one's got loads of beta alanine, this one's got loads of beta alanine, this one's got loads of something else. I've just mixed them all together, and I've actually just got a whole thing of beta alanine and nothing else now, realistically. So I'm just itching my face off.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you took on a client that was going to go into a prep and their caffeine was quite low, like mine was, would you recommend titrating up?
100%. And caffeine is something I do use in people's preps, at some point along the lines, especially coming into the back end, sort of those last 6 weeks. You can definitely start to turn on diuresis a little bit, to some extent. Again, appetite suppression, general fatigue management, just to keep them, or tricking the brain into thinking it's not sleepy anyway. I use a lot of B vitamins as well. So B12, B6 to kind of negate that fatigue. I'd opt for them first over caffeine, just caffeine's a funny one with me because it's such a genetically unique individual response to it. Technically speaking, we could have a gram a day, but I don't think I know a human being that could have a gram of caffeine a day and be okay. So, it's not something if the individual has the leverage there, then we will. If they don't, I'm quite happy just playing around with B vitamins to kind of offset some of that fatigue from a supplement basis anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Because this is definitely something that I'm learning much more now, working with Tom, going down the assisted route, and like my supplement stack is mental. I have to muster up energy to sit there and get my supplements, my AM and PM supplements ready. And I've got like little shot glasses in a holder because I get confused otherwise at this point. And it takes so long to sort it all out. But like the stuff you're mentioning there, that's all incorporated. And I think sometimes there's a lot of confusion around the assisted route. Especially a lot of people go down the oral route for ease, and because, just I'll take whatever and I don't have to inject, don't have to think about it. But when you do it properly, and like you probably have with Joe, there's so much that goes into it to support good health while you're an assisted athlete. It's not just a case of let's take a pill a day and I'm going to get jacked. You know?
Yeah, something that you've also got to remember, like with us enhanced users, is what you're doing in a deficit. You're removing food, so you're removing micronutrients, you're removing macronutrients, you're losing those essential vitamins and minerals from your dietary intake. Now, I know they're only making up a small percentage of it. As enhanced users, we need a hell of a lot more, like you said, from supplementation to cover our health. But taking away those little 1% makes a difference when you are stage lean. When you are that lean, removing those little extras, so losing the bit of vegetables or losing some of your carb sources that are carrying in some good nutrients from somewhere, it's going to have an effect. And you kind of, as much as you don't want to have to keep making it up with supplementation, you do need to keep an eye on it so that you are staying healthy with the over-the-counter sups to make sure we are on top of our health. Because again, you're at the peak stress state of your body's environment, high stress from dietary fatigue, physical fatigue, your physiology is all over the place. So the last thing you want to be doing now is trying to catch up on your health, trying to mitigate these problems that could have been corrected by just keeping on top of it the whole way through.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's quite interesting there where you mentioned about keeping things like veggies in and thinking about the micros. Definitely in my first few preps, and I know a lot of people that do it, you try and sort of, if you're on the flexible dieting approach, fit things in. So I might use 200 calories on a protein bar because I think, oh, that's going to satiate me. And actually now I'm at that point where I'm going to have micros every time I eat.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to make up some sort of lean protein with that. And then I'm going to use my calories on that rather than thinking, oh, what can I fit in? Can I fit in 10 grams of cheese and that, little things? It's almost like you've got to think what's going to be the healthiest at this point because you're removing, like you say, food. And it's important that you keep those micros in.
Mm-hmm. It's a fine balance as well because you want to be getting good nutrient dense food coming in. You want to try and maximize your carbohydrates, like you said, like trying to get rice and trying to squeeze some fats in there to make up the calories because you need it. You need that fuel. But you can't miss out on those essential micros. I was the opposite. So when Joe was looking through my food and stuff, it was like, bro, have some rice, have some food, have some actual food here, because I'm having 1.2 kg of vegetables a day and nearly a kilo of fruit, because that's what I want to eat. Because I know it's going to stop me from being hungry, despite maybe making me feel a bit more fatigued or more tired because I'm not getting as good dense calories in. I'd rather have the satiety handled.
Yeah, I think that it again comes with experience. You realize that you're never going to get full satiation, as it were, in a prep. But I enjoy fruit and veggies, and if you can change your mindset to think of this as health and think of this as micros, bringing that in, bringing food volume in, then it definitely does change your mindset rather than thinking, oh, I've got to eat another salad.
I think this is quite useful for post show as well. When you look at nutritional intake, what people starting to eat more, you get more food, you get more carbohydrates back in, more fats, and people would naturally drop their veggie intake down over time just from being more full from having more food. And it's something I really stress into my clients: keep that vegetable intake consistent. You're eating more food now. Your digestion needs that fiber and intake consistent from where it has been. Now that you're getting more food in. More so than ever. Don't start decreasing the good amount of fiber you've got coming into your GI, because gut motility is going to slow. It's going to, it's all going to go Pete Tong otherwise.
And you're going to be starving.
yeah, and that and all. Yeah, just to add to that, yeah, I'm eating more food, but I'm hungrier than ever.
Yeah. How does that work?
Yeah,
I'd like to probe you a bit as well about your peaks, because fat loading is something I've spoke to Joe about on the pod before, and I find it really interesting myself. I haven't ever done that apart from this peak. Like I said to you before we jumped on, Tom let me have 50 grams of peanut butter yesterday and the same today, and he said we're sort of getting ready so I don't spill when we do introduce carbs, although it's going to be quite a small peak for this show. It's definitely something that really interests me because it's almost like it's still quite new. Not many coaches do it. So how did you find doing a fat load?
So I mean, peak weeks in general, there's quite a few different ways you can approach it, like front loading, back loading, and then separate subcategories of each of those different tactics of how you do it. But essentially, every time when someone peaks, they're kind of loading fats and carbs. Everyone's trying to do the same thing: load fats, load carbs, dry off. It's all kind of the same goal, but we have different ways of going around it. And now the fat loading approach with the backload of carbs at the end is just a type of peak week. I really, really enjoy that kind of. I enjoy that kind of approach, but I think it's not one that is better suited for me. I think looking back in hindsight now, my physique is very temperamental, and my fluid response is extremely quick and very sharp, and only takes the slightest little thing that it doesn't like to blow me the other way or flatten me right out. I have a physique that needs this much margin of error, and anything outside of that, the look's gone. So for me, I know next time more of a traditional peak is going to be a little bit better. But in order for that to work, where you just have carbs and fats across the week of the peak and increase to the end, I need to be peeled to the bone to do that style of peak. You can't do that style of peak if you're not in condition, because it won't change anything, it won't do anything. But the actual peak, so the fat loading, so this first time fat loading for me it was enjoyable. Obviously, you know, going from no food, protein only, to having loads and loads of fats, it was great. But my GI just, the
Oh,
first week, it was a real struggle. I've gone from the whole off season having 33 grams of fats peak, just from trace carbs and stuff, trace macronutrients, bulking my fats up, to Joe going, yeah, we're going to load you with 140 grams of fats today. So I've never eaten 140 grams of fat in a day in my life, never.
no,
So
no.
my stomach, I said to Joe, I was like, I don't know how my belly's going to take this. You know how sensitive it is.
Yeah.
And for 3 days, I was bloated, swollen. It was doing the job. We could see that I was filling up slightly in those spaces. I was getting a bit drier on the skin, but my midsection just got swollen and bloated.
Did it?
So by the time it come to carb loading, like the first peak, we fat loaded for like 3.5 days. So we had like a half fat load meal one into the start of the carb load for a half a day.
Okay.
And again, all that digestive stress from the reintroduction of fats, then having a 800 gram of carbs squeezed into 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Oh my
I said
God.
to Giles the next day, I was like, you want to load me more carbs, man? I don't want to eat. I want to throw up. I feel I haven't, passed anything through me in probably 2 days. Like, this is not cool. So coming into the second show, we had a big restructure around. I was a lot leaner. I was a little bit less scale weight, so I didn't need the same amount of fats to kind of hit that maintenance target of washing off inflammation. So it was a little bit easier. And from the first peak into the second, I think my GI had kind of habitualized around fat intake.
Yeah.
So it went in really smooth. I didn't have any issues, no gas, no bloating. And then the carb up, we didn't do the fats on the half a day. We just full days of carb loading, spaced out really evenly, made GI perfect. I come into the second show, I felt great. I had no stress through the midsection. I looked a lot better. I could hold a vacuum. The only thing I wish I'd done was eaten food on the day. So on the first day, first show, we ate into the show and had like a couple of carb meals. My look went, my stomach went, and it was a bit shit. The second time, we did the complete opposite and eat anything. And I had really good midsection control, looked really good, but was flat and didn't have the same condition because I wasn't full. It's a learning curve, of course, but I think peak for me, I need to nail in exactly what peak week works for me, for my body type. Like I said, I think I've got such a temperamental 2% margin of error here that if I don't get it right, I won't ever see that look I want on stage. It was a good experience and one that I enjoyed. I'm happy to trial through new things, and the more I get to learn as a coach and the more I get to experience as a coach, like, it's great having the data and what we know works, but doing it and having the anecdotal experience carries so much a greater weight alongside the data as well. So I can now appropriately do this with other clients better.
Yeah, for sure. How did it feel not eating on show day? Was that quite a strange?
I was okay. I was okay. I thought I would be like excruciatingly like, hungry and dead, but by the time you're there, you've got to check in, you've got to get your registration number, tan, this, that. Like, you don't really have time to think about food. I had Snacker Jacks and everything in the bag ready, and I was backstage contemplating it, and I was like, nah, let's just stick with the plan. I know better than doing stupid shit like this.
Yeah, it's when you start getting those bits ready. Like yesterday, I started getting my jam and rice cakes. I was like, oh my God, it's getting really close. And it's really exciting because, it's not even the food, it's like it's something different.
Yeah.
And you get satiated when you're building up to a show and show day, like rice cakes and jam, it really hits satiation. It's not till after the show you're like, nothing's gonna hit my satiation now, unless you can get, like you are, the calories going that much higher than a traditional reverse out, as it were. How is your food looking now?
I think calories wise, Joe obviously sent me macros. I think roughly the calories worked out about 3,600.
Wow.
I know that my maintenance roughly, like kind of midway of prep, was looking at about 4,500 calories. So I know Joe's been a little bit apprehensive in this first week.
Yeah.
He did say there was a little bit of leeway there to bump you up a little bit more, but he just wanted to see how I respond this week. And I mean, I'm 1 kg above stage weight, so I should think like it will be. We get to the end of the week and it's, we're going to need to feed you more now. But yeah, it's enjoyable. I think the macro split is a little bit different for me. Again, I'm used to no fats, and Joe's given me fats in the reverse, which is quite nice
Right.
because I'm thinking about that satiety. I'm thinking, oh, the fats will slow my digestion down. So this is a time when I'm gonna utilize this. This will be good. But I think as soon as I get out of this phase, I'll probably go, Joe, yeah, take them out again. I'm not fasting them.
Yeah. And is your idea to bring calories up fairly quickly where there's room to?
Yes, yeah. It'll be maximizer. So Leon did a similar post-show rebound to what I'm doing. Same
Okay.
timeline ish, about 6 weeks, and the goal is just to get as much muscle on my frame as possible, keep body fat as low as possible, but just get as big as possible. Wash it off in the maintenance after.
Okay, so you'll hit maintenance and then you would then go back into the growth phase.
Yeah, so we're just pushing our health phase, essentially just extending the prep kind of drug use and pushing of training a little bit further, but just giving me more food and just changing the environment a little bit. But I still will need to do that recovery and maintenance at the end because there's still going to be some health markers and stuff that I do need to get back in check. You can't prep without fixing something, but
Yeah.
it's just delayed.
Mm. And did you have conversations with Joe about this before the show, or was this based on the feedback you got?
This is the feedback. So I said to Joe like I wanted to do more than 2 shows. I was annoyed that I got in condition and couldn't do more.
Yeah.
But season B in Australia starts 2 weeks time. The first show Victoria State, and obviously I've got clients competing in throughout season B. So for me to be in, carry on digging out for another show, like I said to Joe, it would be rapid fat loss. I want to get peeled. I keep going. That's not feasible for me to do that and be peaking clients through the night because I'm gonna have to switch to night modes and be working their time zone and stuff. And I say it's gonna make it very, very hard for me to either do one job or the other. And obviously I will prioritize clients, which means I'm probably gonna eat food when I'm fucking starving on rapid fat loss, trying to peak them through the middle of the night. I'm honest and completely honest about it. I know that will happen.
Yeah.
So it's not favorable for me to try and, I'm just gonna we might as well just cancel that now.
Yeah.
We did think about potentially doing a maintenance kind of approach through them competing, and then at the back end of it, try and grab the last show of the season. But yeah, with the feedback, what's the point? I'll go back into classic tool again, and I need more muscle. So even if I improved in condition here, it's not going to change the fact that I'm not bigger by that point. So yeah,
Yeah.
the goal is more important to start getting that tissue on.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely merit in having conversations with your coach before the show about potential outcomes and what your strategy is going to be after the show, because definitely I find that it gives me that sort of, I guess, if there's a bit of a plan or sort of what's going to happen after a show, even if it's just talks about, especially first timers that have never done it before, what a reverse out is, what maintenance is, what an off season is going to look like, because otherwise, again, that can contribute to you feeling quite lost after your show.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a funny feeling because you're suddenly going to have to embrace the scale weight going up, the change in body composition, and also there's that risk. I don't know if you've experienced it before, where you want to actually hang on to stage lean.
To some extent, yes. I think that obviously, appealing to that gender difference here. I
Yeah.
think females 100% have a much, much harder time with the transition post-show to recovery and seeing their body change. See it anecdotally with all my clients. It's completely understandable. And I think with guys, I still think the problem is there, but we don't see it necessarily, I think, for a couple of weeks post-show. Whereas you girls will see it sort of within a week, you see start changes happen and the panic button comes on. Whereas we spend 3 weeks kind of like, I feel full, I feel big, I feel vascular. Oh yeah, meathead, great.
Yeah.
And then we start to see it change after that point, like 4 weeks in, we start to get a little bit softer than we'd like. And that's when our mental games kind of start. I don't really seem to have an issue with it because body fat goes on, body fat can come off, body fat will go on again, it will come off. I've done this so many times cyclically now that you just get used to it and you know it's going to change. It doesn't make it any easier. You still don't like seeing it happen, but you know it's got to happen. So you just kind of switch it off and get on with it. But it's definitely, I mean, with Zoe post show, like watching her body change and that, it can be a very, very hard time for people to navigate. And it's sad. I don't want to say you have to suck it up, but sadly, you do have to realize that the goal is not to be stage lean forever, and it's not healthy to be that lean forever. You felt like shit for a reason. Now imagine staying like that for your life. It's not going to work. You're going to hate life. It's not going to be easy, enjoyable. And everyone's transition through that is individual, and that battle that they have with themselves is their own. And some people will really, really find it easy and just fluke straight through it. And some people will been battling themselves for 6 months, sometimes a year post show. It can really be that bad.
Yeah.
And it's about having the support around you, I think, first and foremost, from a coach to tell you the goal is not this anymore. We have a new goal. You're not going to get better unless we put on some body fat.
Yeah.
We're not aiming to do that sole purposely. We're trying to grow muscle, but you've got to get some back on to be healthy first. And then we've got to put on some more whilst we're growing. It's understanding that is a part of that process. It takes time to really let that settle in.
Yeah, for sure. Something that really stood out to me on the last pod we did was where you said about being open and honest with your coach. And I think that is gold for, any of the listeners, anyone I speak to. I always say, first of all, find a coach that you feel that you can have that relationship with, first and foremost. But also, these thoughts and feelings that you're having, lean on your coach. If anything, sometimes post show feels more important to communicate with your coach than on the peak, because especially when it's your first show of the season, you're so excited, prep's going well, everything's on track, you're getting ready for your first show, excitement is there. It's afterwards where you really need to I guess expose yourself to lean on people that will support you.
This isn't a solo run. You didn't just get in shape on your own. You had a coach there the whole entire time. Prep does not finish until that recovery phase is done.
Yeah.
That is when prep really finishes. And the level of detail that a coach needs to give to a client needs to stay the same from prep, peak week, all that detail all the way through till the end of that recovery phase. You need to be on top of that, because there is a lot of psychological issues that can come out in a person here that could be unfixable long term. So we're talking like something that's going to take years to recorrect. Food behaviors, food eating habits, binge eating disorders, they're not light things. It's not like, she gained a bit of body fat, it's not the end of the world, we can pull it off. No, this is a psychological thing that's could be a month, could be 2 years. So us as coaches, we have a responsibility here. I know we cannot control people. We have to appreciate that we can't make someone do what they're going to do. But it's our job as a coach to be there as the support network to make sure that you guide them through that and help them make the right decisions through that recovery phase. Because again, a first timer as well, what on earth are they don't know what to expect. They don't know what's going to happen. They're going to have all of these sensory inputs thrown at them from their body's physiological adaptations changing, and they're not going to have a clue what's going on. So being honest and being vocal, communicating, messaging your coach. I've got 2 girls that are first timers coming into their first shows. They message me, checking with me daily, but we're talking all through the day. I want updates throughout the day. If shit starts going a bit west and something goes wrong, tell me. Let's squash it. Let's sort it out. As much as it's not my job to be a counselor, or that's not in my job description to be that kind of person, being a bodybuilding coach, this is the level of service you have to provide at this stage, because it's so temperamental and easy to go wrong. So we have to keep that level of standard up, and we have to keep that level of service all the way through until we transition into the off season. The level of service doesn't really change, but it's more the time that they get from you is a little bit more important at that stage. There's a lot more to talk through. So even in the off season, if they had the same stuff to talk through, you still would, but they're just not there because it's not in that environment anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
There's so much you've got to be on top of. So I think, like you said, communication and being honest is 2 of the most important things there. And your coach should be there for you and support you.
Yeah, like you said with Zoe's post show, like it was ideal because you're her coach and you could be there on holiday. But I can't imagine how that would feel, literally going on holiday and being told, okay, do what you want, have what you want. When we get back on plan. It could be a very, very big mistake, because if you don't really know the effects of, that rebound out of a show and what all of this food is going to do, then you're just in essence doing what your coach says and enjoying yourself, whatever that may be. Yeah. If you've got an appetite, that could be a serious problem.
big problem.
Yeah.
Very big. Yeah.
100%. Eating to satiation or being full is completely skewed for quite some time.
It's you can't tell a client to eat to hunger or eat to satiation post prep, because they're never ever going to be. It's that thing. The more you eat, the more ghrelin goes up. The more you think you want more food. I've seen people that have put themselves in physical hospital from stomach trauma because they are ramming food in their belly that can't go in there because they can't stop fucking eating. Yeah. That's not the person's, that's not them. That is not They are making that conscious decision. Yes, I agree, but they're not in the driving seat there. They're currently sitting passenger, just fucking hanging on with their seatbelt on.
Yeah. They're doing their best to, I
Yeah,
guess, listen to what the coach has said and listen to, friends and family as well. Like I've been pressured so much before, and I look back and I think, fucking hell, because you are compromised, health wise, psychologically, everything is in a vulnerable position. And then, I've been backstage before. I don't know if you've had this sort of behavior, but girls that are talking about what foods they're going to eat before we've even gone on.
yep.
And then you get off stage and they pull out, I've said it before on the pod, this girl that got out those big things of sweets that you get from the cinema, two of those, and then she had Reese's, Oreos, and she was like, who wants some, and you're like, but we've just got off the stage.
If that's your mentality, then you maybe should reassess what your drive and passion is about bodybuilding.
Yeah.
For me, post show, I was too busy trying to find out what I look like. I don't care about the food. I want to know what do I look like, so I can settle my head on whether I'm happy or whether I'm annoyed. That's
Love
my
that.
first goal.
That's gold though.
I had plans to, go and eat food, but I didn't know what food. I didn't know where. I didn't care where. I just knew that Dean and Lizzie had made an effort to fly over to see me, my bosses.
Yeah.
I want to spend time with these people, and I can't wait to do that. But post show, post the comp, I was already doing that. I'm with these people, and I'm not fussed about food. I went and had an edible and a smoke, but that wasn't because I was hungry. That was because I wanted to trying to drive an effect there, right? Yeah, calm down, chill. So just post show, your goal here should be about the people around you, the environment, not the food itself. And if your main focus is coming out of that going, what can I ram in my face? We've got some behaviors here and some psychological things that need to be addressed in your relationship with food first before thinking about bodybuilding maybe as a career here, or should you really push through first? Maybe this off season should be about getting that correct.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you went for food, it looked bloody delicious, by the way, I must say. But what was your sort of
So
mindset and intention there?
um
Or was it more to just spend time with friends and family and have a nice palatable experience?
I wasn't really too fussed on what I was going to be eating, because the food that I chose, burger and chips, is stuff that I'm eating daily now.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. I knew the minute Joe put my food back up, my macro tracking is brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, sure.
It was more just about being with the people. I mean, I definitely, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy some good food and I made sure I had stuff that I liked. But it was weird. Joe said I was an idiot because I sat there and I went, I want to get the barbecue platter. Why? Just because it's loads of protein. I've literally not eaten all day, and the only thing in my head is going, I need to at least get my minimum essential protein intake, because otherwise I'm just not being healthy, right? That's just not good for my muscles right now. So straight away my brain was like, bodybuilding, I'm going to get a big beef platter, and then I'm going to eat all the meats and proteins and stuff. Treats and sweets wise, I didn't really, apart from the edible, it wasn't until I got home that I really had anything, which was nice.
I guess as well, I find when I get home after, if I do go for a meal after a show and whatever, I said to Matt, like, I think when we get back to the hotel or whatever after my last show and we just sit there, that will be such a precious moment to just go, because he's done the whole prep with me. Like, although he's not prepping, he's seeing everything that goes into it, a bit like Zoe has for you. And just to have, like you had the following day, just those dates throughout the day, it's so important to just, whoever's important to you, spend time with them. If you need a bit of time out on your own as well, sometimes it's like, I'm just going to go for a walk on my own. It's nothing you've done, but I just really need to process this.
That's exactly what I did. Exactly what I did. It got to I think it was midnight, 1 in the morning. It was close to that. I just couldn't sleep after the show. So I just took myself out for a walk, went out in the cold air, just stepped. No real reason. I just needed some space on my own to clear my head and think. Because you don't get a chance to get in here.
Yeah, for sure. And something I like what you said there as well, although obviously you went for protein, it was like somewhere that you can go and it wouldn't be potentially meat that you would prepare and make like that. And those post-show meals, I always recommend to people to think about, why don't you go somewhere where you maybe haven't been before, somewhere you've been before that you really enjoy, rather than, backstage having something like Reese's butternut cups, which you can track. So you can track that in your off season. And blowing out on having, loads of sweet treats and stuff. There is definitely space for that. Like, I'm looking forward to having, diving into a cookie pie of some sort,
100%.
or, a few, but it's something that's different. It's away from the norm, and you can actually enjoy that so much more.
Yeah, Yeah, I think I think the timing of everything is what really sets your mental state towards the situation. It's if you're literally, like you said, that girl coming off stage, sweets out, Reese's peanut butter cups. Like every human being is going to want to eat food post show. That's normal. We're hungry. We haven't eaten anything nice for a while. We're going to want treats. But it's whether you're like fixated on that. That's your sole driver of the day. So when the minute you've woken up, that girl definitely was not thinking about stepping on stage. She was thinking about when I come off, I've got all this to eat, because that was her response.
Yeah.
That's not how we should be. That's not how you should be perceiving the day and perceiving bodybuilding, and that mindset needs to be corrected. It does. It's the time. I think it's that time thing. Post show, yeah, you're going to want food, but it doesn't need to be the minute you come off. You don't need to be ramming. You're going to want to go outside and you're going to take pictures with people, man. Like you're scoffing down Reese's. Guess what? The belly's going to look blown out, and everyone's going to be seeing them post on Instagram. Well, you're not going to post them on Instagram because you look at your belly, you go, "Oh fuck, I've ruined a moment of my day now. That's memory." Like,
yeah, for sure. And definitely it rings true, you know, doing it for the right reason. I think that relates as well to things like, you know, hoarding and buying things during your prep. You know, it's not something that I tend to do, because if it's in the house, it's almost like that mental torture as well. And, you know, what are you going to do after? You're going to eat it all. And then also, you know, I've also been there, you know, where I've eaten a lot post show, and then the next day you feel like absolute shit. Your physique is not responding very well to what you've done. And then you're even more in this place where, you know, you've got regret then, and then you're trying to process what happened at the show, and it's a whole world of mind warp.
yeah, I do just want to caveat the food situation though for a first timer. Understand whatever happens after you just listen to what me and Sarah have been saying. If you do end up binge eating, you do end up going spiraling out the wrong way. First time I did, I was binge eating for a week. So these are lessons that I've learned over time, and do not pressurize yourself to be perfect. Okay, because you're not going to be. Hell, I'm still not. I know. I'm sure Sarah's not either.
No.
Don't put so much pressure on yourself to think how, because you know this is coming from experienced bodybuilders, people that love this sport and have done it. If you're a first timer, it's going to be so novel for you. Take each day and each second as it comes, and just try and be as logical and as health conscious as you can be. But if you do eat some food and you do binge eat too much, remember it can be corrected. It's not like you've just completely ruined it, but it can be corrected afterwards. So don't pressurize yourself or feel bad because we're sat here saying, no, it should be about this. You don't know how you're going to respond. So don't just take it as it comes.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, you know, in a similar respect, it's almost a shame if you are just thinking about the food after, when you've worked, you know, potentially for 6 months, however long your prep's been. You know, I always say to people backstage, if I see this sort of thing happen, I just say to them, this is your time. This is your time to shine. You know, enjoy your stage experience. Food is always going to be there. And like you say, you know, we all do it. We've all done it. And, you know, who's to say whether we'll do it again, because you get caught in the moment at times. But ultimately, you know, if you're doing this as a sport and it's something that you do potentially want to pursue for a long period of time, it's trying to work out what your why is. And, you know, you've done it all for this, could be only 10 minutes on stage.
If that.
And then it's gone. And it goes so quick show day, doesn't it?
Yeah, I literally the first show didn't even recognize anything that happened across the day. It was like I didn't have any recollection or memory of it, which was really annoying. So in the second show, I was like, right, there's 2 moments in this day that I enjoy: 60-second pose down and my routine. As long as I'm present and I look around, I really feel that moment, I'm good. Just to show that when you're on stage being compared, you're not going to remember that, man. They literally, they're chopping you and swapping you, they're putting you around, moving you about, in, off, gone, get gone. It's not, you're not able to really soak it all in and look around for a couple of seconds. But when that 60-second pose down was on, it's like you've got a chance to kind of control the stage, you know, put all the eyes on you. So go and be you, go and do you, and the routine. It's just you on your own again. Like, look around and enjoy that moment, soak it in.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's giving me the heebie-jeebies thinking that I'm doing it in 3 days. I'm like, oh my god,
it's gonna be what a stage to do it on as well. I
I
could,
know.
everything that they put into that on stage is just beautiful. What an experience to compete on that as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, God knows how many bikini girls there's going to be. It's 9 till 2 on the Sunday, just bikini. That's how
Just
many there's
one
going to be.
class. I
Yeah.
know are they doing all the females on one day or?
Yeah, so they do beginners round 1, 2, and 3. Then they do novice, they do masters, junior, and then there's A through to H, height categories.
Oh my God, H.
I'm F. And then it's the pro show in the evening. But yeah, it's mental. And, a bit like you have thoughts of what you want to do, like whether you want to place or what have you. But for me, like competing on the Arnold stage, it's like that's a once in a lifetime thing. And I know I've done everything. Another thing that's really important for the listeners, if you've done everything in your prep, you've executed the plan the best you can, that's all you can do. You've done your posing practice, you've hit your macros, you've done your training. And, it's so important to remember that, like you said, just stepping on stage, that 1% of people in the whole world.
Yeah.
It's so important.
You've already achieved. If you turned, there's no stone left unturned. You have followed the plan to the letter. Whatever the result on the day, you have nothing but pride to feel in yourself, because you've done something that is truly, truly remarkable. Again, 1% of the population are going to do it, and you have not missed a beat. Whatever coach has sent through to you, whatever needs to be done, you've ticked it off. You've done that. That gives you a sense of calm and a sense of just peace on the day, that that doesn't matter what the result is. I've done everything humanly possible here that I know I can. It could be better next time. Yeah, probably. You're going to learn lessons, but at least you've done everything. You can't sit there now scratching your head going, oh, if I'd done this, what if I didn't miss that minute of cardio? What if I didn't miss that food? Or,
Yeah, 1 gram of carbs.
It literally, but the anxiety really does get that bad about 1 gram of carb.
It does.
Finicky.
Yeah, for sure. Before we wrap up, George, you said about your posing and your eye walk and what you did. Something we spoke about on the judging podcast was how important posing practice is and having a posing coach. I'd like to hear your take on it from a male perspective, because we do have male listeners as well. And I think it's important to keep hitting home how I feel it is very important to focus on that.
You can have the best physique on the stage. Someone with a worse physique than you, or a better quality standard, but maybe slightly less conditioned or slightly smaller, can beat you when they present it perfectly. So it doesn't matter how big you are, how shredded you are, how good you are. If you cannot, it's nothing worse and nothing more upsetting when you look and you see such a fantastic, brilliant physique backstage, and when they step out, they can't display it correctly. And you sit there and think, mate, you would be walking home with it. They'd be saying, the judges would be sat there going, right, who's second then? If you could pose properly. And it's those little things that really aggravate me. So posing is a really big factor within classic bodybuilding. So I will stress it for classic competitors, and I will stress it for men's physique competitors. When it comes to open bodybuilding, I don't think is as heavy, because it's not judged, it's not marked. Sorry, it's not, they don't point system or count that in towards your overall score. It is important to look good on stage, and this is how you're presenting your physique. So it is still somewhat important and open, but they're not marking you on it. So I'm not, I've seen people go out there and hit really awful posing, but because they're freaks, they just, they're going to win.
Everyone, yeah.
But with classic, there's a heavy focus on it, right? We're marked on our posing, our flow, our routine. It all gets tallied into it. I think people need to really accentuate posing practice in the off season. I think that if you can pose when you're 250 or when you're at your peak weight and you're feeling lethargic and fat, trust me, when you start prepping, you get lighter. Posing becomes so easy. I was posing 3 times a week in my off season, and then as I went through prep, it got better and better and better. And by the end of it, I could do my routine perfectly with no flaws. I didn't practice my routine for the last month of prep.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
It was done. I didn't need to. And it was more stress. Joe said it's more expenditure. You've got it in the bag. Don't worry about it. So I had calm, cool, collected. I knew the job was done. When you're like on stage, stood next to someone as well, there's a difference between first and second. Is it that could be the thing that defined you?
One pose.
That was it. And it can be. Where there was a judging scorecard the other week where the first and second was 1 point between it. That literally can be one shot. So lat spread or whatever it is, they beat you on that by 1 point.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've actually had that before.
It's important. It really is. And I think females find it easier to get excited about posing and the glitz and the glam and the persona that it brings. And I think with men, it's a bit more flamboyant, and they'll be like, oh, I don't know if I can do that.
I can do that.
I love the flow. I love getting up on stage and dancing around like Billy Elliot, mate. That's my time to shine. That's when I start to really express myself and show some emotion. When you sit in the lineup hitting a front double bicep, it's hard to get some emotion or who you are into it. When you've got a routine, oh man, you can do anything. You can change the scene of the whole stadium.
Yeah. And would you say having opposing coach is an investment as well? You said you worked with Leon a bit.
So I I think mandatories and, you know, typical proper posing, like when you're on the lineup being compared, you need to have a posing coach run through your physique with you, pick apart someone who's not just looking at you going, I'm going to teach you how to do a front relax and make you copy them. You need someone like Ryan, or you need someone like Leon who's going to look at your physique and go, right, you've got wide structure here, X, Y, and Z. He needs to pose like this. Right, let's put him in this position and let's tweak it so that his physique looks as best as it can in this shot, this shot, this shot, this shot. Get them practicing it, get them learning it. If you're someone who doesn't have a lot of creativity and struggles with footwork and rhythm and things like this, get someone to do your routine as well. If you have a routine, 100%. I was very fortunate. I designed my routine myself because the song was quite emotional for my family. It was quite personal. I wanted to do it myself. Yeah. But I still got Leon. I did it in front of Leon and said, tweak me with footwork, tweak me with arm position. You know, those little 1% to make it look better. Yeah. Now you come in and you show me what I need to improve on this. I don't want to change it, but just make it better.
Yeah.
I think it's the same as you get a coach for getting you in shape. I think everyone should invest in good posing coach. I'm not saying you're doing weekly check-ins with them. You know, it might not be feasible to do that, but you should at least be, you know, in prep 100% once a month or whenever you can afford to. Getting in that posing time is going to be so crucial for your prep.
Yeah, I hoped you'd say that, so I'm glad I asked, because it's something that I say is so important. You know, it's like anything though, isn't it? It does cost money, but you know, you've come this far and you're paying out for everything that goes into being a bodybuilder anyway. It's like you say, it could be that difference in first and second place, or you know, if you get a place in, or how confident you feel. I know from working with a posing coach myself, every time I come away from a session, I'm gassed because I've got something to work on. I've got the tweaks, and you know, she's going to give me feedback. So it really does help you be a bit more self-critical as well, but use the lessons to then evolve as a competitor.
100%. I think nowadays as well, I think most posing coaches have made it quite accessible, being so that you can, you know, FaceTime, Zoom calls, you can do other ways of, you know, maybe cheaper services to still get some one-to-one time, but you haven't got to travel to meet the coach wherever they are, do the one-on-one, pay the extortionate money for posing seminars or whatever. Oh, sorry, for one-to-one posing. Or maybe you look at the federations because they've got, you know, Leon and Ryan are associated with a couple of federations now. They do posing workshops that are a lot cheaper than one-to-one, but you can still go and get that good value for money in a group setting. Like, there's ways around it that are going to make it a bit more affordable. So just doing what you can, that's the main thing.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can't afford a posing coach, practice every goddamn day, film as much as you can and send it to your coach, and he should be able to give you some good feedback at least.
Yeah, at least, you know, if it's a bodybuilding coach, they should be able to give you some sort of pointers, shouldn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So at the moment, is your mission Coach George now, amongst obviously going into your massing phase as well?
Yeah, 100%. I fully got my coaching hat back on. I'm literally, before the call, I was planning 2 trial peak weeks for the girls coming in this weekend, and I literally sat there, I had a moment on my own where I come back upstairs the day after the relaxed day. I looked at my laptop, went, yeah, it's game time now. I've just done 2 shows. I'm like, now it's game time. What?
Yeah, it's time to see my competitors shine.
Yeah, that's the excitement again. I loved being on stage. I loved every second of it, but it's something about I'm gonna be sat here at like 4 in the morning in a couple of weekends' time, waiting for results, like watching the things out on the phone, like, oh yeah, I can't wait.
Sure. I've got a consult with a competitor from Australia tomorrow, and we've had to work out times. She's just competed. She's going to compete one more time next weekend, and then looking to come on board and work with me for an off season and then compete again. It's super exciting. But straight away I thought, oh, this is what George is talking about, time zones.
It's a nightmare because Oz have like 3 different time zones and they're all like an hour or 2 apart from each other.
Yeah.
I booked in a call this morning. I thought it was 9 a.m. my time. 8 a.m. my time. And then I messaged her saying, hey, can we move it forward a little bit? She went, yeah, it's not for 3 hours though. And I'm like,
okay.
Oh, right, okay, I'm way out. I'm on this side of Australia. You're on that side, right? Okay.
For sure. So we've said it before on the pod, but for anyone that's listening that maybe hasn't heard you come on before, if you hit us with your Instagram and how people look at coaching with you, or whether they want to follow your journey, how they would do that.
So guys, my Instagram handle is flexcoach_George. I am a prep coach for the company Flex Success, which was originally an Australian-based company, but we coach people internationally around the world. So main priority for me, my work is coaching competitive clients and competitive athletes. However, I do also offer one-on-one consultation services to go through health considerations, blood work, help plan out off seasons, preps, or give any advice I can in and around physique development, drug protocols, you name it. That's what the service is there for. And if you would like to reach out for all of our services at Flex, you can do so via the website or check out my Instagram bio link tree to take you through to our coaching application.
Awesome. Thanks, George. It's been awesome to have you back on. Always enjoy our sessions.
We'll have some good ones post show. There'll be some.
Yeah, I know. We will probably have, well, we will definitely have some double dates going down as well. And people can view that on our Instagrams as well. All the food.
Yeah, it might not be so useful topic of conversation. Funny.
How we do off season. Thank you, George. Have an awesome day. And I'm sure I'll speak to you after my show as well.
100%. You'll speak to me on the day as well. I'll be watching, but I won't be there, sadly.
You'll be there with me in spirit.
100%. 100%.
Thank you, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
Love, Sarah. Speak to you soon.
See you later, mate.